Now we unmuted. Now we unmuted.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Unmuted.
Turn me up now. Now we unmuted. I'm about to be one of the best to ever do it. Simp 7 in the building, you already knew it. Roll on my sleeve, so let's get to it. I'm walking with my purpose, I'm walking in my vision. So that means I'm just a man on this mission. I'm just a comedian that happen beats Christian. So let that beat drop, give them what they missing. Yeah. Now we unmuted. Now we unmuted.
Boy, Simp 7, aka Scott Simply, which is my government name. Y'all know that, right? But today we got a very special show. I just want to say that police brutality is something that is still going on in our world, in our America. I don't know about everybody else's America, but in our America, it still goes on. And we got a video that we're going to show that is very disturbing. So if you could take a moment to check that video out and just let me know what you think about it, and we'll discuss it.
To say somebody scared you because they asked you a question is ridiculous.
That's preposterous. Wait. It's ridiculous to you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's not ridiculous over here.
I'm not giving you my information.
Sir, if you refuse to give me your information, I'm going to arrest you.
That's fine. My property has nothing to do with any marijuana whatsoever.
Jason Tartt, what is your date of birth? I'm going to arrest you if you don't give me your name and date of birth.
This is just a question, man.
Yeah, well, I get that. And so then my only question to you is your names, just so it's okay in my own heart and mind. And when I say the season we're living in, you know the season we're living in.
Y'all looking for something over here at his house?
What is it?
Y'all concerned about something over here at this house?
This house?
No, that house.
Yes.
What's the problem?
Who lives there?
Mr. Ferguson? He's probably there now. He's 79.
Okay. All right. What's your name, sir?
You come knock on the door.
Tarrt.
Jason Tartt.
Tartt.
And what do you mean by the season we're living in, ma'am?
Sir.
What do you need? You got any questions for me?
No, I'll collect some information from you in a minute, your name and date of birth and such.
What do you need my information for?
You own these two homes, correct?
What
Okay,
these two homes got to do with that?
These two homes is near that marijuana grow, so I'd just like to have your name.
You know how many people go through here?
I understand.
That's not going to do you one bit of good.
Okay. Well, sir, I'm going to need your name and date of birth, and I have that.
I don't feel comfortable giving you my name and date of birth.
Okay, well, this is a criminal investigation. You own these two homes, so by law, you do have to give me your name and date of birth, sir.
If he gives you a reason, yes, you do.
Reason for what?
Because of the marijuana grow.
It's not on my property.
Okay, well, again, I have reason to believe that these two homes here that you own is related to that marijuana grow, so you have to give me your name and date of birth by law. Go get a pen and piece of paper.
Reason to believe what? Why? Because these houses are here?
Yes, sir, and you own them.
May I say something?
Right. Do you understand? I was born and raised here. Do you understand that there's a lot of traffic going through here?
Since we've lived here, people come up here and they park there and we don't know where the hell they go, and then they come back out.
I don't have a problem giving you my information. I'm
Okay, well, that's all I need. It doesn't have to be an argument. I mean, just give me your name and date of birth, dude. It's easy.
It's not easy. My property has nothing to do with what you found.
Okay. Well, we're just making sure of that. That's our job.
Berwyn Land Company owns.
Okay.
Berwyn Land Company owns.
Sir, I don't understand why you're being argumentative about giving me your name and date of birth.
I'm not.
It's simple.
Well, you scared me. I mean,
Scared you?
Who says that?
By asking you a question?
Who comes up and asks? That's crazy.
And it scared you?
I'm trying to understand what
it scared you by me asking you a question.
Growing marijuana?
And that's a question.
What does these houses on my property got? Did you find it on my property?
It's near your property.
Yeah.
Well, what they got to do with the
They do. Yeah. To say somebody scared you because they asked you a question is ridiculous.
That's preposterous.
Go ahead and give me your name, sir.
Wait.
First name.
It's ridiculous to you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's not ridiculous.
Your first name.
I'm not giving you my information.
Sir, if you refuse to give me your information, I'm going to arrest you.
That's fine. My property has nothing to do with any marijuana whatsoever.
I'm going to arrest you if you don't give me your name and date of birth.
You gonna arrest me if I don't give you my name and date of birth?
It's obstructing an officer.
How?
Because you're hindering me from doing my job. You're hindering
How
me
am
from
I hindering you from doing your
Sir.
job if it's not on my property?
Last chance to give me your name and date of birth, sir.
How am I hindering you?
Sir, last chance to give me your name and date of birth.
How am I hindering you?
Place your hands behind your back. Place your hands behind your back. Are you going to give me your name and date of birth?
Take me to jail. You're right. I'm hindering you from doing your job. Please.
I'll see if I can find you my name first.
No, I'm hindering you from doing your job.
Really going out off the
Yeah, this is how you guys.
This is bad.
This is,
112 control.
this is how you operate.
This is a wrap.
I'm hindering you from doing your
That's why
job.
I needed their.
Y'all need to go inside.
I'm afraid.
Go
now,
inside.
I'll tell you the truth.
Go inside.
On my own porch?
No, go inside as of right now.
Tell me why.
Go inside.
What are you doing?
Step off
man?
the porch. Step off the porch.
I'll step off.
Go inside.
What are you doing? This is unnecessary for
Sir,
you to be
go
doing.
inside.
He's standing on his own porch.
Go inside.
Don't come in my house.
Go inside. Step back. Go inside.
Look,
Thank you.
that's completely uncalled for.
Come on.
Look,
Walk.
man, don't
Walk.
listen.
Sir,
You don't
stop.
have to listen,
You're
man.
being
Listen,
recorded.
listen. This
Just
is
walk.
listen.
Walk.
Listen.
Walk.
Listen. I
Sir,
can
walk
walk.
towards
I
the
can
car.
walk
Okay,
without
well,
you
walk.
putting your damn hands on
Walk
me. You
to the
understand?
vehicle.
I have not broken the law.
Walk to the
At
vehicle.
all.
Well, walk to the vehicle,
Don't
sir.
put
You're
your
being
damn
recorded.
hands on me. I give
Sir.
you no reason to touch me.
I'm going to arrest you then. Place your hands behind your back.
Uncalled for.
Place your hands behind your back.
Put your hand behind
Place your hands behind your back.
Listen.
Look, just relax, okay?
Listen. You
Relax.
Place your hands behind
Okay.
your back. Please place your hands behind your back.
My hand is behind my.
Place your
It
hands
only
behind-
takes one of you.
Place your hands-
Look, let him do it. All right. Take your hands off me.
That's fine. Okay.
Let him do it.
I think he got an alternative motive.
Okay. Let's walk this way.
But at this time, the man that's in the video is sitting right here with me right now. And I must say, watching that video, I commend you, brother, and how you represented us. I appreciate it. But let's get into it. But right now, I just want to introduce to everybody, to the Unmuted family, Mr. Jason Tartt.
Yes, sir.
All right, I corrected it right. Okay. Sometimes I can be French, like Tartte or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, brother Scott. Thanks for having me on your show.
Most definitely. Thank you for coming on to this show, man, and willing to talk about what happened to you. So let's go back a little bit. Let's start from the beginning. Where are you originally from?
I'm from a small place in West Virginia, here in the middle of Appalachia, a place called Voss Creek, West Virginia.
Balls Creek, West Virginia?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, man. How's the college football team up there?
WV, I don't really follow it too much.
Yeah.
We got a couple of pretty strong teams, WVU and then Marshall University.
Okay,
both
yeah,
here.
Marshall. All
Got
right.
solid programs, but I stay so busy, I don't even really know what's going on there, honestly.
Okay, I feel you because I know you used to watch it back in the day, and I know you used to watch the Florida Gators spank that. Every chance we got, we spanked it. I just want to put that out there, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those Florida teams used to be rough.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, man.
For sure.
So coming up as a kid in your neighborhood, man, and your surroundings, did you witness anything different? Were you guys treated any differently coming up in those times?
I came up in a predominantly Black community. This is cold country. So during the early 1900s, a lot of our people migrated into these areas to get in on the coal mining boom. But most Black people in this region were kind of segregated into what we call coal camps. So I grew up in a small Black community, very loving community, family oriented. You go down the street and you get in trouble, you're going to get a beating there.
Yeah.
And then another one when you get home type of thing. So that was kind of, how we grew up. It's kind of a microcosm of what you see in larger inner city situations back in those days.
Okay. Now, I grew up in a community like that as well, but they ain't beat us and pass us around for beatings. I just think that's child abuse. I used to hear stories like that, if the neighbor will beat you, Then the police, the police, because he knew your daddy worked with him, he beat you. Then you go home and get a beating. That sounds like child abuse, that cuz.
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot to unpack there for sure. But I'm very thankful to have grown up in a community and around people that really cared about myself and held me to a certain standard in terms of my character. A lot of that's been taken away from us. So I think it was very beneficial in some ways. But yeah, those beat downs might have been a little harsh.
Yeah, I know, man. We was talking, matter of fact, we had a prayer call this morning, and one of the sisters was talking about, how they used to get beat and passed around and the principal would get you. I knew exactly what she was talking about because I got hit one time. That's all it took for me, man. Like, listen, you even put your hands on me like that, Cole, and then pass me to my father. And my father was a Pentecostal preacher, man, so they was about to discipline and all like that, man. I'm like, listen, if you put your hands on me, that's cool. But don't go around passing me around for butt whippers around the neighborhood, because I ain't with all that, man.
Right, I hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so when you went to school, how was the environment there?
Predominantly white environment. And the Black experience in America, we have to, wear two faces. There's you in the neighborhood you come from, and then there's trying to assimilate into, the construct that is America and dealing with the majority, if you will. And so we had to really be able to adapt and understand how to fit into the white culture and be accepted. That's something that we've had to struggle with since we were brought here. And that's definitely how things were as I was growing up, especially going to school, playing sports and those types of things.
So did you have any white friends in school?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I had a white friend, we played baseball together, and we had a game after school one day. So this kid asked me to go to his house. He didn't live far away. I was a little leery about it, but he said everything was cool. When we got to his house, had a basketball goal out front. He asked his mom to give us some milk and cookies, I believe. A couple of days later, he came back to school. I think this was on a Friday. When I saw him Monday, his people had beat him black and blue for bringing a Black person to the house. At the time, he didn't even know that it was a problem, but he found out really quickly that, that's something that you don't do. So, I've had my share of encounters, of that nature in this area. Been called the N-word more than once, of course. So, we definitely experienced it quite a bit then. And I think it's just, the United States is inherently racist, I think, in a lot of ways. And so that's definitely within the culture here for sure.
Wow. So when he came back and you said they beat him black and blue for bringing you to the house, did he stop being friends with you at all? Did he change the way how he communicated with you or anything of that nature?
No, most of those relationships were limited to school. You may have people that, for example, a white friend that would invite you to their home in some cases, but their parents wouldn't allow them to come to yours.
Right.
So as I got older into middle school, you started to see those types of things, and it was very disheartening. I was raised, my parents, they're good and bad in every race, so you treat people as you want to be treated. And that's kind of the way I was raised and what we live by. But yeah, there was definitely some things going on here, that let you know that being Black was an issue with a lot of folks around these parts.
Right. Well, for one, I apologize if you're going through that as a young person. You know what I'm saying? I know it could be detrimental because I have family members that went through it as well. And I've also had my small experiences with it as an adult, But I read about you, and you went to the military. You was an officer in the military, correct?
Well, I was enlisted, but yeah, I was a military police officer in the military, the Army, United States Army.
Yeah.
So that was a great experience. I met a lot of strong brothers in the military. Some of my greatest friends. I mean, coming from this type of environment, going into the military, they pretty much shipped me straight to Europe. I was stationed in Germany, and even encountered racism in the military.
Really?
Oh yeah, I remember going to basic training in Fort McClellan, Alabama, and you know, we were told then, if you are a person of color, don't go off this installation alone. You know, only about 2 or 3% of the military police corps at the time were people of African descent. So yeah, it you know, that was interesting, but it's interesting because you know, my experience was I ran into a handful of brothers when I got to Germany, and they just, you know, welcomed me, and we're tight until this day. And that's what we had to do. We had to take care of each other, and so I was blessed in that way to have some strong brothers around me.
That's good. It's almost like going into a city that's predominantly white, and you go into that restaurant and you walk in and you're like, oh my God, I don't see none of us here. You find that one brother sitting over in the corner eating some crabs. You're like, okay, hey, I'm gonna come see what you cook.
Definitely. I don't care where in the world. You know, it's one thing about us. If we see each other, we acknowledge each other.
We do.
And I think, you know, I really didn't pay much attention to that until I went to Africa. And in Ghana, you know, everyone's Black. So we're in the habit of speaking to each other when we see each other here in the US.
Right.
But in Ghana, if you speak to every Black person you saw, you know, you'd have a problem, probably catch a cramp in your neck and your arm because everyone's Black. So I realized then that we have a certain connection here because of the trauma, because of the issues that we faced here. So when we see each other, you know, we always acknowledge one another. And I found that to be very interesting, but it is very true here in the US.
Okay. So did you get stationed in Africa or anything like that? Or you just went on a trip?
No, I went to Africa. You see my shirt here, the year of return in 2019.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so they had the year of return, which, you know, acknowledged the 400-year anniversary of the transatlantic slave trade. You know, and I think that was very eye-opening for me to go to Africa and really get exposed to, you know, what colonization and some of the things that transpired at that time, what it did to Africa as well, because we tend to focus on what happened here in the United States or in you know, the Americas when it comes to you know, transatlantic slave trade, but this was a global situation, and there were atrocities taking place on the continent as well as here. So this is in terms of the Black experience. This is a global situation. It's not just limited to the United States by no means. So that gave me a very interesting perspective on, you know, this whole system of racism and you know, what it's actually done, not just to Black Americans, but Black people globally.
Right, correct. So in 2020, we come up on a situation here, and this is how I've come to know who you are. I was just minding my own business and just watching something on Facebook. And then when it got done with that video, another video came up, and it was you. You was chilling at your house, leaning over on the porch there, just chilling. And 2 police officers approached you, man. When you saw them approach your house, what was going through your head? Did you think that they was just coming to see how you guys was doing, or you want to know what the problem was, or you just knew like, okay, something is about to go down?
Well, by the time that part of the video started, I actually, you know, those were tenants that leased a house from me.
Right. Okay, all right.
So I was down at my parents' house and got a phone call, and they indicated the cops had shown up. Apparently, someone called in and said that there was some marijuana planted near a church. So I went up there because my tenants were concerned because these police were next door at another house looking through windows and that kind of thing. So I came up, they were concerned about that. So I came up, introduced myself from the very beginning. Hi, my name is Jason Tartt. I own these 2 homes here.
Right.
Yes. You know, and it kind of went from there. Mrs. Hairston, you know, the lady in the video, felt very uncomfortable from the beginning, you know, given everything that's going on in the country with, you know, police brutality. And I think the George Floyd situation really, you know, got a lot of folks' attention, you know, so she was very concerned about how this would go. And unfortunately, you know, the young officer just wasn't feeling her. He wasn't understanding where she was coming from. And I think it's, you know, so that was interesting, but.
Can I throw a little nugget in here?
Sure.
Out of everything that was going on at that time, you can't help but understand where we're coming from. You guys are being recorded all the time. You can't get away from it. They knew. They just didn't care.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
you said your name when he asked you, you know, what's your name? You said, I'm Jason Tartt. The lady prior to that, she said that she was afraid or whatever. And then he kept asking her, trying to provoke it. She just said, you know what I'm saying, with an abrupt, you know, I'm afraid of you, get away from here. No, she didn't do it like that. You guys were calm. And he was trying to, oh, well, so you mean to tell me, asking you a question, you're afraid, ma'am? You mean to tell me you're afraid? You started talking about something else, but he went back to that. Me asking you a question, you're afraid? They was trying already. But here's what I want to ask you before we get a little bit further into it. I saw another video that had them walking from your house to where the weed, whatever it was at. That's a pretty far distance for anybody to say, I'm gonna, you know, plant some weed all the way out here and go in the woods with coyotes and rabbits and frogs and smoke some weed. What's that all about?
Stay off the weed. Oh.
Man.
You know, one of the things this area is known for is marijuana growth.
Yeah, okay.
You know, West Virginia, I mean, it's not known for farming, but I can tell you that marijuana has probably been its #1 cash crop for a long time. These folks get into these mountains and do their thing. You know, that's well known here. You know, it was a great distance from my property. And as a matter of fact, there was another person's property between mine and where he found this stuff. So, you know, he was determined to connect it to someone, you know, and I think that's why he was looking so hard next door. I'm not sure. He kept asking questions about who was next door, and that was an elderly man himself. So, you know, he was determined to make someone give an account for that weed, and I guess I was his guy that day.
Well, you was his guy, obviously, because of the color of your skin. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. It was no other reason. It wasn't on your property. You kept saying it's not on my property. So what other reason do you have to continue to question me time after time after time? Give me your name. Now, I want to ask you this, because normal black folk, I'm going to say this, outrageous black folk at the same time, they would have went off. They would have, like, you know, got loud, was ready to fight or whatever. And looking at the video, you was cool, calm, and collective the whole time. Did you have that on the inside of your mind? Let me stay cool and calm about this, because I, you know, if I get rowdy, they might shoot me, or they might handcuff me and take me away, or they might try to say, they even said it already, but, you know, they might try to say that I was trying to, you know, cause a scene with the police or something like that.
Yes, that was definitely a consideration, brother. I that was the first thought in my mind. Anytime I see police, you know, it could go bad, you know? And so, but after watching the George Floyd incident, you know, black men have been, to me, black men are the most oppressed individual on the planet, bar none. And that's not taking anything away from anyone else's struggle. But black men, you look at mass incarceration, you look at all these things, you look at television, and it's always black men being shown in a negative light. So the narrative built around us is very negative, especially in the United States. But, you know, I was fairly upset, because had that been an older white couple, the first question out of his mouth would not have been, do you grow marijuana?
Not at all.
You know, and I asked him that initially, you know, if that was an older white couple, would you say that to them? So it got to the point to where I didn't care anymore. Right is right. I'm not standing for this. The way you're treating this elderly couple here on their own front porch is unacceptable. The fact that I had police training and understood police protocol and knew that he was way out of line, I just wasn't standing for it. And you know, so thinking that you can handle me because I am a black man, and you're used to seeing black men being handled in a certain way, those days are over, you know, and we as black men have to let it be known, you know, that we're human beings. We deserve to be treated with dignity and respect just as well as anyone else.
Right.
And if you attempt to take that away from me, you know, you're going to be met with resistance.
Okay, and you're absolutely 10,000% correct. It is over. It's been over.
Yes.
We want to make sure that you know that it's over this time around.
Yes, sir.
Now, with that being said, you're a former police officer in the military. You know the laws, you know the standards, you know the rights. When he said that, by law, I asked you to give me your name and your information. By law, you have to. Although there was no, although there was no search warrant, there was no evidence that was attached to you. So do you have to give up your name by law to them when they ask for it?
To my understanding, no, I don't have to give him anything. You know, the first thing I did was identify myself, just out of courtesy, you know, trying to be a law-abiding, righteous citizen. You're supposed to be a public servant. I understand how difficult it is to be a law enforcement officer. And unfortunately, most law enforcement now are suffering because of a few, you know, and the system itself is broken. Don't get me wrong. Right. The system of law enforcement itself was born out of our struggle. And a lot of people don't even know the history of law enforcement and how this whole system was developed.
Talk about it. You got it. Go ahead. I need to know this.
You know, I think when we came off the plantation, you know, there had to be a system put in place, because at the end of the day, the enslavement of people of African descent was about economics. It was about money. It was about free labor. And when that ended, the system demanded, how are we going to replace that free labor? So, you know, the chain gangs and the incarceration of black men, you could be arrested for kicking a rock down the road, and a gang of people would come by and say, I saw him do X, Y, and Z. There was no, you know, process in place. It was just, you go to jail and they find a way to put you back to work for free. And the policing aspect of it, obviously the slave catchers and for runaways, that whole system was born out of that. So when you talk about, you know, this country being comfortable and used to the mistreatment of black men, that's been happening for a very long time. And we've just gotten used to it. And even we as a black community have gotten used to seeing our own struggle put in front of us. And it's time for us to paint a different narrative, you know, around what's happening with black men, the black community in general. You know, so I think there needs to be education around, where did the policing system come from? How can it be improved? Where are there policing systems around the world that are actually getting it right? You know, and none of that has happened. So I think the people in the United States need to understand how this whole policing system was developed. And I think it'll give more direction in terms of how we can correct some things.
So along with that, do you think it's best for us to like grab a book that has all the rights in it and learn them just like we learn everything else?
I think it's definitely important, especially if you have black children, you know, to teach them how to handle themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, not to panic. I have 2 black sons and a black daughter, and we've had these discussions. And, you know, one of my sons is a truck driver. He was up in the Northeast a few weeks ago, and an older white man tried to spit on him. You know, so
what?
Yes.
What?
So there are things happening still. There are a lot of people that look at us as less than human, and you know, we should be subordinate to them, and that old habits die hard, you know. And so yes, I think it's important for people to understand the law, to understand your rights and how you can handle yourself, especially when you're on your own property,
right,
doing your thing. You haven't broke the law, so there's no reason for you to submit to the authority, you know, of these people when they have no right, you know, or authority over you. And I think a lot of law enforcement officials get it when they put that badge on and they put that weapon on their side. You know, there's an ego thing going on there, and I think they automatically assume that I'm the law. You do what I tell you to do, and that's the end of the discussion.
Okay. During that process, you let them know that I am a retired officer in the military. In my opinion, and some other videos that I've seen, once they find out that you are a police officer, you're off duty, or you're grand jury, black grand jury, they kind of back up you like, well, they try to change the story. Homeboy still tried to arrest you and take you to jail, which they obviously did. But why do you think that he didn't have no kind of respect for you being a retired officer?
Well, it was just like back, during the time when black men were trying to prove that they, number one, had the mental capacity to do certain jobs in the military, to allow us in the military to begin with. The Tuskegee Airmen come to mind. Yeah. They had to prove that they had the mental capacity to do these things. So you have a lot of people that get upset about you having those types of credentials and that type of background. So there are people that don't like it when you say I have, this experience or this background or this level of education. Wow. That doesn't go down well for a lot of people.
Right. So after that, they then proceed to I don't know if that, now you say that was the tennis house that you was at, that you rented out to him. So the man that came outside that was trying to record the situation, they came on your property and pushed him back inside of the house.
Yes, sir. That was Mr. Hairston, Mrs. Hairston's husband, and again, a veteran himself.
A veteran himself.
Yes, a veteran himself. Don't you remember
back in the day, they was enlist us, send us out there to fight. Go out there, get your leg blown off. You come back home and they still treat you like crap, like you don't even belong in the same breath, the same air, you know what I'm saying? And even till this day, I'm a fellow law officer. I fought for this country. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and you still get treated. Now, I must admit, since President Biden been in office, there's been less of black men getting killed. You know what I'm saying? We gotta give it up for that. There's been far less than what we've seen in the Trump administration. But it's still going on. Even if 10% is too much, 5% is too much, 1% is too much. What in the world is going on through these guys' mind? You're being recorded, number one. You know that. And I have seen guys that look in the camera. Hey, you might be recording. Hey, how y'all doing? I'm like, oh my God, they don't care. What is going on in their mind, brother?
I think that ego came out on my man. Again, when you meet someone that may be more qualified than you, and you're black on top of that, I think he had a very difficult time. A lot of people hate to admit they're wrong.
Right.
All of us have been in a situation where we're wrong about something and we just don't want to acknowledge.
With the wife.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I've been there myself. So I think it got to a point to where he knew that it was going down the wrong road, but his ego and the fact that we were black people, I think again, they don't take us seriously. A lot of times people don't look at us in any other way than what has been represented through the media, So, and through the media, when you look at the history of black men through a media lens,
right,
that's what's being portrayed to most people. So when a lot of these guys encounter a black man, they're ready for war off the jump. This is not a situation. Either you do what I tell you or else. And I think that's pretty much the way he's been conditioned. You hear toward the end when I get put into the car, is it a black male or is it a white male? What on earth does it make what color I am?
Right.
So there, and then he, I also heard them talk about, he charged me with obstruction. And I think that's kind of a blanket deal that if you can't get anybody on anything, just throw obstruction at him. And that wasn't something he did on his own. I think he's been trained to do things that way.
Right.
And so I think poor leadership is a big part of what you see going on here as well.
I got a question to ask you, because what I saw was amazing. when he was doing what he was doing and saying what he was saying, you said, arrest me. Go ahead. You turned your back, put your hands behind it, and you were still calm. Now, anytime that happens with one of us, of course, we'll get a little scared, especially when on the way to the precinct, they're either going to beat you up or you might not come out of that car alive. But you said, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and take me. What kind of courage did that, I mean, where did that courage come from?
You know, I know an older black male, he's passed on now, that was beat up pretty badly by some police around here several years ago. And at that, it got to the point to where I just wanted to get these guys away from the Harrisons, to be honest with you. So whatever it took to just, you know, I'm not afraid, you know, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. But here Miss Harrison's telling you she's afraid. The minute Mr. Harrison grabbed his camera, they really took it up a notch, as you noticed.
Right, you did.
But really just trying to get them. My mom was walking up, and you may hear later on, once they put me in the car, my mom is actually outside the car asking questions. Right. One of the cops just rolled the window up in her face and didn't even want to communicate with her. So I just wanted to move the situation away from the people, you know, because I saw where this guy was going. His attitude wasn't getting any better. So I just wanted to remove these folks from the situation, honestly.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna wrap this part up. We're asking about the jail experience, because you did go. They did take you. How long were you locked up?
They locked me up overnight. That experience was very interesting. The whole time they were talking to me, and if you just did this, if you just did that, all you had to do was give me your name. And at certain points, I just laughed, because he would say, Jason, he would say my name and then turn around and say, all you had to do, you know, why don't you tell me your name? And I'm thinking, are you hearing yourself?
Jason, you gave him your name, and he kept saying it even when he was putting the cuffs.
Tartt, what is your date of birth? I'm going to arrest you if you don't give me your name and date of birth.
You're going to arrest me if I don't give you my name and date of birth?
It's obstructing an officer.
Jason, you're being under. Jason, Jason, like, dude, you're saying his name. He gave it to you already. That's how you know it. And then when you said, now watch this. This is funny. When you said, arrest me, and he asked you again, when you told him arrest me, he kind of backed up. Like, well, let me go ahead and see if I can find him. Like, you already said his name the first time, so you know exactly who he is. So it's kind of like he got scared for a little moment, but came back with a vengeance, man. He
had no clue. He had no clue what he was doing. He was poorly trained.
Big time.
Had no idea. And I think that's a big part of the problem here as well. That, again, a failure in leadership. You're putting these guys out here doing this job, and you know they're not ready. So it's a dangerous situation, because you put a weapon in someone's hands who has that attitude with the lack of training, and you get people hurt that way. So, you know, and at that, once they took me away, they pretty much talked to me the whole way there about what I should have done, what I could have done. Got to the point to where I just stopped talking. We got to the police station, and at the time, COVID was ramped up pretty badly. So
most definitely.
I was concerned, once we got so far down the road, got to the police station, I was concerned about COVID and being exposed to COVID. So they take me in the police station, sit me down. He wants to take my fingerprints. So I have to ask him, are you going to clean this? You know, because it didn't look like it was clean.
Right.
I didn't want to get exposed to COVID. So, you know, he cleaned it, still telling me what I should have done. I'm like, okay, it is what it is. They take me to the county jail. I go in, it's dark. I can't see anything. But I found it interesting when I got there. They walk me in here, they give him some paperwork, and the lady says, what is he here for? You know, the most difficult part of this whole situation was to have to go and strip down as a grown man, bend over in front of some kid that's younger than my children, exposing myself, you know, stripped me of all dignity and everything. And that was the most difficult part. This is the part that wasn't caught on camera. is the way that you're treated when they take you into these places, whether you have done anything or not. I'm standing here in a room, it's cold, and I have to expose myself to someone standing behind me, bending over and doing these things. And that I'll never forget. You know, that's the part of it that really causes me problems and really gives me grief, is because, you know, I try to I try to do the best I can to walk as a righteous man and to deal with others as I always want to be dealt with.
Right.
And here you are stripping me of everything. So that was very difficult for me. They took me up and took me to the cell. And along the whole time, they're booking me and putting me into this place. Every person at the jail that I ran into were scratching their heads saying, "Why are you here?"
Right.
You know, so even the folks that worked at the jail were calling it nonsense. The next morning, they get me up to take me to go see the judge. So they take me downstairs. It's daylight outside. And there's a sign on the door that they brought me through that says, by order of, I think it was the governor, everyone who entered into that facility was to be provided a mask. They didn't provide me a mask. And I didn't know this until the next morning. Again, I was concerned about being exposed to COVID, especially going up in these jails. And they didn't even afford me any protection against COVID. And they had the signage right there. So, you know, if you're a Black man, you know, these cops could care less about your rights.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so I found that amazing, exactly, that these guys weren't even following protocol. It wasn't like I was a murderer or you know, being accused of anything. It was obstruction. So
the very thing that a lot of us, besides myself, I could care less for is weed. You thought you found some weed and it had something to do with me. And it's not even about me. And now I'm sitting here in the back of a police car. I'm driven to a police precinct. You strip me down butt naked. And now you're taking me to a jail cell and I have nothing. It's mind blowing. This is the modern day time. I can only imagine what they went through back then. You know what I'm saying? And this is still going on like this, and they did you like that, man. I apologize that you even had to go through that.
Yeah, I even one of the guys that was working in the jail the next morning, he was an off-duty cop that was working in the jail part-time. He comes in through the door, looks at me and said, "They rednecked you." And this is a white man. He said, "Looks like they rednecked you last night, huh?" I said, "Yeah, I guess so." Oh yeah. So even the folks there acknowledged what happened.
I thought he was trying to be funny. I'm like, wait a minute.
No, he was being serious. And apparently, I've had a lot of people call me. I had a white lady drive up to the house. "Are you Jason Tartt, the guy in the video?" "Yes, ma'am." And she just started pouring her heart out to me, because she's saying that they're harassing her. I don't know her situation, but I've had several people contact me talking about the misconduct of the law enforcement folks in this area. So it's pretty widespread. Allegedly, from what I'm hearing, there are a lot of people that take issue with the way that these law enforcement folks are conducting business, particularly McDowell County Sheriff's Department. I can't speak to any of the other law enforcement agencies because I haven't had any interaction with them, but the McDowell County Sheriff's Department is definitely making a name for itself in terms of how they're dealing with the community. And, you know, I have to say this because we as Black people in this country have been enduring this madness for so long. And, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. said that an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And you had a lot of people turning a deaf ear and a blind eye to what's been happening to us. And now those things are starting to happen in other communities. So I think we need to understand that we can't stand by and let injustices take place, regardless of a person's color. And I think when more people, especially more white people, understand, you know, what's going on and understand that ultimately the system is designed, you have the haves and you have the have-nots.
Right.
It's all connected. And I think it's important that people understand that we have to put a stop to this because there are people, in the white community now that are really feeling what we've been feeling for a very long time.
Okay. All right. So I know after that, a lawsuit has been filed. We can't touch on it, but I just want everybody to know we're going to get justice on that. Bottom line, there's no way possible that can go on. And they got the video. It should end right there. You got the video of the whole situation from his body cam. My justices recorded it, man.
Yes, sir.
Justices recorded it. And we should have to go to trial. We should have, I know it was thrown out when they tried to take you. It was thrown out, thank God.
Yes.
But that should have looked, they should look, hey man, we gonna throw something to you, you know what I'm saying? Give you a couple of police cars. You can do whatever you want to with them, you know what I'm saying? Here go a couple of white women, we're gonna let you do whatever you want to. I'm just playing, bro. I'm just playing on you, know what? I'm playing, man. They would have gave it to me though. But after that, you found yourself going to Africa. And you got a couple businesses in Africa. What was that like?
Wow. You know, when I went to Africa the first time, I didn't know very much about Africa. And, you know, we tend to focus our attention on the Black struggle here in America. And this is just a small part of the story. You know, a lot of the poverty and injustice that's taking place on the continent of Africa, honestly, is because of what Europeans have gone into Africa and done. And a lot of people there, again, don't know about the history of what was going on during the time they were bringing some of our ancestors over here in slave ships. There were several European countries that were colonizing the entire continent of Africa. As recently as the 1920s, King Leopold and the Belgians went into the Congo and killed more than over 5 to 10 million people. And this is history that a lot of folks are simply just not aware of.
They won't even tell you about it. You don't learn about that in school either.
Absolutely. So it's, you know, going to Africa was really eye-opening. It really helped me to understand that we as Black people need to recalibrate and shift our focus in terms of how we even deal with racism. Because a lot of how we need to deal with racism is simply educating the white community on what's going on. I've had, you know, good white friends over the years, but they're the least educated demographic when it comes to understanding racism and the impact of racism, because they simply haven't had to deal with it. Right. They just simply don't understand it completely. And I think if the education and awareness around it were presented to them, a lot of people would, you know, be working with us to eliminate this. Right. It's like the abolitionists. I do a lot of workforce training with young people, and I was talking to a group of folks, had some young white males in the group, and they had no idea that there were white people involved with the Underground Railroad. It seems like that part of history and you know, they don't want that to be known. They want to continue to perpetuate this racism because it's about money at the end of the day. And again, now some of those issues are starting to pour over into the white community as well. And so I think it's time for us to have a real conversation about racism, the history of it. Most people don't know that racism as we know it is a fairly new concept. Right. You know, prior to the transatlantic slave trade and historically speaking, people were doing business, trade all over the world with each other. Greeks would go into Africa and learn from people that look like you and I, but that part of history is not told. So I think we're at a time now that people are more receptive of the truth if presented correctly.
Right. So what kind of businesses do you own in Africa that you started? I apologize, that you started in Africa? Yeah,
I'm into agriculture. I started a chili pepper farm over there. So we're developing a chili pepper farm, 100 acres. I've partnered with some beautiful Ghanaian folks. We've got a great team. You know, I really see great opportunity when the diaspora and the continent come together. Beautiful things happen, and there are a lot of beautiful things happening on the continent, not just in Ghana, but across the continent. And I run into African Americans there all the time. So there are a whole bunch of us, over in Africa doing great things, working with our brothers and sisters on the continent. And it's time. Marcus Garvey's vision, his vision was the global Black family, and once we come together, we've already proven, when you go back and you look at Reconstruction, when you look at the Civil Rights era, even the Great Depression, when you allow us to do our thing, we can do amazing things. We've proven that time and time again, So I think we're there, and we have to be aware that Black Wall Streets do happen, and anytime we start to stand up and do well, something happens to sabotage that. And I think for the younger people, even as recently as integration and really understanding the economics related to integration and what it did to the Black community is largely unknown. They paint this narrative that, well, we want everyone to have equal rights, and that's what the Civil Rights era was about, and that's what integration was about. But prior to integration, a lot of people need to understand we had Black communities thriving, Black businesses, banks,
yes, we did.
schools,
Yes, we did.
everything. And that money was circulating within those communities. So we were building wealth until integration happened. So I think there needs to be educational truth presented around all of these things to better understand why situations like what happened to me are happening. Is because you have a lot of white people, and white police in particular, not all, but some, in this case, definitely, that have zero respect for Black people. And I think they need to be educated on the contributions of Black people to the world as well, that people understand our history didn't begin with slavery.
Right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So
I've had a white man here in West Virginia tell me, and this is a retired military man, tell me that slavery benefited everyone, to include Black people, because they civilized us when they brought us here.
Say what?
So again, yes, it's laughable. So again, I had to give him an education and some points of reference to look into, to understand real Black history. Mm-hmm. I seriously doubt that he went and looked into those things, but that's kind of how we're viewed by a lot of people. And it's time for us to paint our own, to write our own narrative. And I think that'll be very helpful, brother.
Most definitely, it will be. Like I said, if you want to start your podcast or whatever, I'm on board. I got you. Because this information needs to be known, and it needs to be had. That conversation got to be had continuously. Not just, when something happens. No, when things are calmed down, have the conversation. Get their attention, because they got to know. And I think a lot of us, Black folk, we don't understand that they might not understand. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have to deal with it. Because you see a lot of their people that's involved, we think, well, they know exactly what it is. A lot of them don't know. So they're kind of, naive to the fact that, well, that's not how it really is. You're not in my skin. It is.
Absolutely.
It is like that. I can recall the time when I took my daughters to the swimming pool, and a white man and his family was in front of us. I thought so. I thought he was about to pay for us as well. He was being generous. His wife stopped him. What, you gonna pay for them? He was like, she stopped him. I'm like, wait a minute. So if that was a little white kid with his daughters, like, hey, come join the party. Go grab your Bud Light and some chips. If you want that too, put it up here. And I was like, wow. And some people got out the pool, and my daughters noticed it. But one of their sons started to drown. Guess who saved his life that day? My oldest daughter. I was so proud of her. And he was just hanging on to her. He hung around her that whole time. The rest of the time we was there, he was on her hip like crazy. And I was very proud of her that day. So you never know when you're gonna need one else to save your life or something like that. So it's like this love train, it gotta happen. It gotta come together now.
Well, I think we should be admired. I take my hat off to Black people, because what we've gone through, and for us to be where we are now, yes, we have a long way to go, but we've overcome so much. So I think we should be commended. And I think also Black people globally speaking, are the only people that I know that have shown true capacity to love their enemies, to love those who do these things to us. We've tried to assimilate into America since we've been here. We're still called African Americans, and that's still a completely different discussion.
Right. We'll
you know
get into
what I'm
it
saying?
later on. Oh yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of things that should be commended and appreciated about the Black community, because any other community, any other group of, they wouldn't deal with it the way that we've dealt with it. But I do believe that Black people have shown a real capacity to love those and still call them brothers, still reach out a helping hand, still, you know, turn the other cheek, if you will, while they still continue to do these things to us. And now it's at a point to where we have to say no more. You know, I'm not going to stand by and let you kill my brother with your knee on his neck. You're going to have to either kill the both of us, or you're going to have to take everybody to jail. But the days of bad, and I want to emphasize that, bad policing, you know, we have to stand up against it and put a stop to it.
My last question to you, to the young people, the younger generation, and the middle age, I see a lot of that as well. What will be your advice to them to stay calm when they get pulled over, when they get stopped at a store, when they get, you know, stopped from selling CDs out of their trunk, or when they're, you know, getting falsely accused for giving money that's not real in the store? Because I mean, I've been giving fake money from the bank as well. They didn't know it was fake. Could have been, but it was fake to me. So it won't be another George Floyd. So it won't be another, you know, what's the guy, the Trayvon Martin. So it won't be another. Like, what do you do?
I think we have to just conduct ourselves as best we can. Try not to be overcome with fear. It's a very difficult thing when you're Black and you encounter the police, because we know how easily it can end, and you don't have to do anything wrong. But we have to make sure that we understand how we're viewed. You know, Jay-Z has a song, you know, the story of OJ.
Yeah.
You know, and in most folks' eyes, that's just what we are, you know, regardless. So these young people need to understand the truth of the situation. I think, you know, we need to get back to taking care of ourselves, holding ourselves to a standard, and doing the best we can to represent ourselves in an upright manner. But that's really about all you can do. You know, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. When you know you're right, you're right. But at the end of the day, there have been many Black people that have lost their lives, men and women, who haven't done anything wrong and were being as upright of a citizen as they could be, and still lost their lives. So we can only do the best we can to present ourselves in a respectful way, in a dignified way. Remember the sacrifices that were made, you know, for us to be here. I think our ancestors paid a dear price.
Yes, they did.
We stand on their shoulders, but we have to do our part in this struggle as well. The struggle is not over, you know, and I think the system has tried to kind of lull us to sleep with entertainment and everything else they can put in front of us to make us forget or distract us from, you know, realizing that this struggle is still real, is still here, is just as much alive today as it was 100 years ago. It's just been repackaged and it looks different.
Yes.
So, you know, so it's just all these young people can do is do the best you can, you know, conduct yourself and represent your family and yourself the right way. And that's about all you can do. And, you know, the rest, you know, if you encounter a bad cop, the brother, you know, was jogging and some white guys decided to take his life, you know, and the brother was out getting his fitness right. And he lost his life just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So there are a lot of people that are just determined to hate us. And I think that that's something that our young people need to understand too. That's still a very real thing. So be mindful and protect yourself You know, don't take for granted that you're in a certain location because you just don't know. It doesn't matter. These, you know, racism is just as bad in New York City as it is in rural West Virginia. It may look different, but the threat is real, and we need to always be mindful.
Okay. And there you have it, America. This is Jason Tartt. He's been through it. You saw the video. He knows what he's talking about. Where can people find you, and where can people get you to come to their event to be a motivational speaker or do something for them?
You can email me at jtartt@gmail.com. That's JAYT as in Tom, ARTT @gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter. I'm new to social media, so be patient.
He needs some more friends, y'all.
Absolutely, but we definitely want to bring exposure. We're going to be working on some projects to really bring exposure, bring awareness to a lot of what's going on. And the theme of it is, again, the Martin Luther King phrase, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And it's really time that people realize that if you continue to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to what's taking place to one group, it's bound to make its way around to you at some point. Absolutely. And we need to talk about it.
All right, Mr. Jason Tartt, everybody. I really appreciate you for coming on Unmuted. Thank you for your knowledge and your wisdom. Thank you for sharing your experience of what happened to you. This is not the only time you will be on here, and we're going to do something together with yours. But we really appreciate you coming on Unmuted. This conversation needs to be had, and we can't wait for justice to prevail.
Thank you so much, brother, for having me on your show, and thank you for bringing exposure to these types of things. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, and we need that. We need to build our own media platforms, and we need to build our own narrative. So thank you, brother, for being out here doing just that and showing who we really are. So I look forward to working with you in future projects. Peace and blessings to you and your family. And thank you to your audience for hearing me today.
All right, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, man.
All right, take care.
All right, later.
Is indivisible. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Simp 7, man. Thank you for watching this interview. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting on this channel. I really appreciate it. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please click that button right down there. Don't wait till your homeboy blow up. You wait. Go ahead and participate and become part of the Unmuted family. We greatly appreciate it. We work very hard to bring you good content and stories that you probably never heard of before, and a little something to make you think about the Lord a little bit and laugh a little bit. All right, guys. Like, click, share, comment. Don't text me. Put it right there in the comments. Simp 7 out.